second ones for 9 COVID-19 positive persons, medically clearing them. 205 RCCL crew members were released from quarantine yesterday following the receipt of the negative results for their second COVID-19 PCR. There are still 153 crew members who have not had a result from a second PCR to clear them from quarantine. These crew members are being urged to remain in quarantine until the receipt of these results, despite the expiration of the initial 14 days of mandatory quarantine. The Health Services Subcommittee of the National Emergency Management Committee urges all Vincentians to remain vigilant and to support all returning nationals in their strict compliance with quarantine and isolation. Meanwhile, the Health Services Subcommittee of the National Emergency Committee has confirmed that a crew member who was repatriated on May 26th on the Royal Caribbean's Vision of the Seas died at the Milton K2 Memorial Hospital early yesterday. A release from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, says the 37-year-old man was one of 358 Vincentian sailors who disembarked the vessel on May 30th after testing negative on both the rapid and the first PCR COVID-19 test. NEMO says a second negative COVID-19 PCR test result received yesterday confirmed that his death was not related to COVID-19. The crew member completed his 14 days of quarantine on Monday. NEMO says in accordance with the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a post-mortem examination will be conducted to confirm the cause of death. The Health Services Subcommittee of the National Emergency Committee has extended its sincerest condolences to the family and friends of the deceased. And in our COVID-19 update, over 1,000 Vincentians have so far benefited from the Unemployment Benefits Program, which was introduced as a means of assisting persons who have lost their jobs as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The disclosure was made by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves while addressing a number of national issues on NBC Radio this morning. Radhika Stephen tells us more in today's COVID-19 update.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says a report from the National Insurance Services, NIS, revealed that over 1,300 individuals have made claims under the Unemployment Benefits Program. The Prime Minister said as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the law was amended on April 7th to permit unemployment benefits which were not previously offered.
The report through the NIS of the number of persons who are on the Unemployment Benefits Program. A total of 1,321 claims were made, and up to that date, they had processed 1,076. That's for the unemployment benefits. That is what the NIS is paying for. But you know, in relation to those who are in accommodation and food service activities and the like, tourism-connected activities, that the NIS is making the payment, but the government is providing them that portion of the money, because the NIS had $2 million which is advanced. Because as you would know, we don't collect contributions for unemployment benefits. I had to amend the law on April the 7th to permit unemployment benefits. So this is a sense is NIS making an important social safety net contribution to persons who qualify as you would qualify for sickness benefit. So you get this money for a 3-month period. If we are extending it beyond 3 months, we ourselves, the government that is, will have to make further contributions.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. Regionally, the director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, Dr. Carissa Etienne, is urging countries in the region to be fully prepared for the hurricane season, saying it is critical to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus in the Americas. And Jamaica has recorded another 6 confirmed cases of COVID-19, pushing the total number of confirmed cases to 605. However, with recoveries at 405, only 200 of that number remain active. Internationally, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will later announce plans to further ease lockdown restrictions in England. And India's financial capital, has recorded 51,000 cases of COVID-19, taking it past the peak in Wuhan, where the virus first emerged. I am Radhika Stephen with today's COVID-19 update.
Thank you, Radhika. And local child protection officer Sandra Augustus said many children face the risk of domestic abuse during this period when everyone is at home due to the COVID-19 pandemic. She made the point during the UNICEF Radio COVID-19 program aired on Tuesday, which focuses on how parents can protect, support, and encourage children throughout COVID-19. Mrs. Augustus said with many people frustrated due to the novel coronavirus and the social distancing and lockdowns taking place, it is easy for adults to forget the needs of children, as domestic abuse can take many different forms. She said some of the main risk factors of child abuse are social isolation, unemployment, lack of access to resources, parenting stress, and family stress. And Mrs. Augustus said signs of child abuse can be hard to detect at times, and she outlined some of the signs that persons can look for to determine if children are being abused.
Many children who have been abused show some shared signs or symptoms. For physical abuse, they may show bruises, burns, injury marks, injuries that are at different stages of healing. Signs for neglect, they may look untidy, or we would say dirty. They may be left alone to care for themselves or even younger siblings, malnutrition, begging, stealing. For sexual abuse, yet children may have bloody torn or stained underwear. They may run away from home. Pregnancy can also be a sign, and bruising or bleeding of the genital areas.
That is local child protection office is working throughout the year to ensure that Vincentians can respond to a range of emergencies. That assurance has come from the Deputy Director of NEMO, Kenson Stoddard, who dismissed the notion that NEMO is only active during the hurricane season. Speaking on NBC's face-to-face program this week, Mr. Stoddard said NEMO has a mandate to address all emergencies and disasters.
NEMO is responsible for a number of things. A lot of times we tend to think that NEMO is only operational during the hurricane season. And we have a lot going on behind the scenes. We have to be involved in training of response personnel, training of community members, and so on, different disciplines in emergency management, different tasks, damage and needs assessment, and so on. All of that sort of training we're responsible for. We have to be responsible for informing, okay? Though we are not the agency that would be involved in the science of things.
Mr. Stoddard said although NEMO does not directly deal with the science of disasters, it is continuing to work closely with the local meteorological service to ensure that Vincentians are always prepared for adverse weather systems.
The Met Office is responsible for hydrometeorological hazards and information, and we have the Seismic Research Unit from Trinidad who monitors seismicity around the region, and so they're in charge of the La Sofia volcano. Though we're not responsible for giving the science and hazards, we are still very much involved in informing. We're involved in warning, dissemination of warning, supporting the Met Office, and also CWSA would help us with the hydrological information as well. So that's a part of our mandate as well. We are also responsible for warehousing as it relates to emergency supplies and so on. That's also part of our function.
That is Kenson Stoddard, the Deputy Director of NEMO. The Solidarity Organization will hold a march and rally this Friday in support of the citizens of the USA in their struggle for justice and a better society. The march will leave the Victoria Park at 3:30 p.m. for Heritage Square, where a rally will be held, featuring speakers, messages and cultural items. Participants are asked to wear black and to observe COVID-19 protocols. Chairman of the organization Solidarity, Mike Brown, said the feature address at the rally is expected to be delivered by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves.
We'll have placards and we will come up the road. Basically, the plan is to come over Wilson Hill through Paul's Lot and walk up towards Heritage Square, and we'll have the rally there. The platform with sound system will be there. We have asked, we have a number of speakers. We have asked Prime Minister Gonsalves to deliver the feature address. We salute his courageous stance because not too many prime ministers are stepping out with the fear of course, and quote unquote, offending United States. They're keeping very quiet, but Prime Minister Gonsalves has spoken out clearly and firmly on this matter, and we have written him asking him to deliver the feature address. We believe he will take up that offer for us, and we're looking forward to it because we believe his leadership will help in us to deepen our understanding of the multifaceted issues that are coming out as a result of this. We'll have messages from people, short messages, 1 minute, 2 minute messages, and a cultural package.
And that is Mike Brown, the chairman of the Solidarity Organization. Solidarity is an organization comprising Vincentian groups and individuals, and it is committed to standing steadfast with all peoples in struggle for a better world. The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force will unveil a plaque in memory of the late Sergeant 209 Philbert Chambers, who died in the line of duty on Sunday, April 26th. A release from the police force says the ceremony will take place tomorrow, Thursday, June 11th, at the Central Police Station in Kingstown from 10 a.m. Sergeant Chambers was shot and killed in the line of duty in Camden Park on April 26th. He was attached to the Kettles Police Station. Prior to his death, Sergeant Chambers had served the police force for over 11 years, 7 of which were spent as a regular police officer at the Kettles Police Station, and the remainder as a detective up to the time of his death. He also worked at the Chateaubelair Police Station. He was also involved with the Police Youth Club and was one of the coordinators for the Barley Police Youth Club for a brief period. He also formed the Kettles Police Youth Club and was the district coordinator up to the time of his death. He was laid to rest following a funeral service in Barley on May 17th. It's time now for NBC Special Report in association with Century Insurance, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross Society, and SVG Eye Care and Blue Hibiscus Optical.
This is a COVID-19 message on flattening the curve. The coronavirus can make many people sick at the same time. This is known as the steep curve, which can put a strain on the healthcare system. To avoid this, we have to work together to flatten the curve. This is what we can do. Practice social distancing. Stay at least 6 feet apart. Wear a mask when leaving home. Avoid crowds. Wash your hands often with soap and running water. And sneeze into a tissue or in the crook of your elbows. A message from the SVG Red Cross.
A storm or hurricane can cause extensive damage and tremendous loss. There can be flooding, landslides, and lightning strikes. Are you protected? What about an earthquake, volcanic eruption, a tsunami, or even a bushfire? Are you protected? Century Insurance protects you, your family, your home, your business. Talk to one of our friendly agents today. Call our Kingstown office at 456-2247 or Beckway 458-3855 or contact our representative, Mr. Jason Sargent, in DeBique Mall in Beckway at 454-4260. Call Century Insurance. We can protect you. Century Insurance. Upstairs, the First St. Vincent Bank building in Kingstown.
The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force has received 5 pieces of musical instruments through a collaborative effort of Vinci Marketing and the Meliswi Brothers. The Meliswi Brothers are a Canadian-based Vincentian musical trio who are world-renowned for writing, recording, and producing their own music and collaborating with other musicians in the music industry. The instruments were handed over during a ceremony on Monday. Radhika Stephen has more in today's special report.
representative of Vinci Marketing, Samuel Brown, said Monday's handing over of the 5 wind instruments to the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force Band is only the first phase of their collaborative effort. He said they plan to donate more instruments to the police band in the future.
Sometime last year, the Mellis Music Brothers were here when we had the 40th anniversary program. We invited them to the lounge, and a bond was formed between Vinci Marketing and the brothers. And what ensued from that, what came out of that, is that they were looking for an avenue to donate instruments and to partner with a company who they could partner with so they could better utilize the many instruments that has been donated to them over the years to their gold mine program. And as soon as we started the discussion, I said to Mark, who is the father, that the police band should be one of the first group or organization to be the beneficiary of such a program.
Representative of Vinci Marketing, Samuel Brown. Father of the Melisizwe brothers, Mark James, said they are aware of the importance of music and will continue to make musical instruments available for use by children across St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the rest of the world through their Gold Mines music program.
The program that Mr. Brown mentioned, the Gold Mine Music Program, is where they collect instruments and they give to kids all around the world. But of course, we're biased towards St. Vincent, right? So we'll always make sure that we take care of home. Where words fail, music speak. So we know how important music is. It's through music that they've been able to do so many wonderful things. So they just want to lend their hand in providing instruments to organizations such as this who do a lot of community outreach. So on behalf of Mark, Seth, and Zachary, we must say thank you for giving us the opportunity to give these instruments to you. And the reception is really well, so we want to do more. I mentioned to the Commissioner, because of this wonderful reception, we definitely want to do more. And in terms of donating instruments and donating our time and our resources towards programs like these.
Father of the Melisizwe brothers, Mark James. Meanwhile, Commissioner of Police Colin John expressed gratitude on behalf of the police force. He noted that the donation will enable the police band to accommodate a large number of children in their youth developmental programs to keep them out of trouble.
These positive things we have to cherish and we have to encourage. Music is a form of entertainment. It's also a source of employment. And we are providing youths with employment so that it would reduce significantly their reasons to embark on a life of crime. So teaching music is a part of the preventative policing aspect of the whole crime fighting apparatus. So I just want to thank you, Mark, thank Vinci Marketing for suggesting us as a worthy recipient. Thank the Melisizwe brothers for their performance and for putting St. Vincent and the Grenadines more on the map as a result of their performance. They have never left up St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They are always proud to see that they are Vincentians.
Commissioner of Police Colin John. I am Radhika Stephen with today's special report.
This is a COVID-19 message. Wear a mask. Wearing a simple face mask helps to stop the spread of COVID-19 if you must be around others. It is therefore advisable that you wear one every time you're out in public. A message from the SVG Red Cross.
Boy, oh boy, you're gonna need a lot of car parts, and I know just the place. Century Insurance Recoveries Department, located in French's next to Pops and Ticks. In stock, a variety of used vehicle parts, engines, transmission, gearboxes, doors, windshields, lights, fenders, nose cuts, differentials, and much more. We also sell newly repaired vehicles, all at a very competitive price, the best price anywhere. We do better than their best discounted prices. Call us today. Wait, the number be again, boy. 784-494-2713, or hit us up on WhatsApp on that same number, 784-494-2713. So cut out the hassle and jump in at our showroom in French's today.
In news of the region, in Jamaica, spending on traveling for civil servants is being cut as the government seeks to adjust to a hit to the budget by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to RJR News, Financial Secretary Darlene Morrison yesterday told Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee that it's among several cuts being made across central government. Morrison said spending was reduced on foreign and domestic travel, local and foreign subsistence, hotel accommodation, overtime, the filling of vacant positions, payment in lieu of leave, training, workshops, conferences, food and drink, advertising and public relations. The government is also delaying some expenditure, including sums allocated for the national census, contributions to the National Housing Trust, and grants to the Students' Loan Bureau. In total, the government is cutting $50.3 billion in spending from the national budget, which it passed in March. Ms. Morrison says some of that has been reallocated to the COVID-19 response, for which over $27 billion has been set aside. And in Guyana, the Ministry of Education has launched a teacher survey to better understand how teachers feel during the pandemic and what can be done to support them moving forward. According to the Guyana Chronicle newspaper, the survey comes as hundreds of teachers nationwide returned to primary and secondary schools from June 8th, but the Guyana Teachers Union, the GTU, resisted the Ministry of Education's order by calling on teachers to stay away from schools. The push and pull comes in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic and the scheduled Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC, Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination CAPE, and National Grade 6 Assessment exams. The learners are expected to write these exams in July 2020, as decided both by the Caribbean Examinations Council and the Ministry of Education. The ministry is hopeful that the COVID-19 curve will flatten in Guyana by September 2020, and it says it will then consider the changes needed to the academic year. Internationally, security forces in South Africa are being accused of using excessive force while implementing coronavirus lockdown measures. According to Al Jazeera News, they have allegedly killed at least 6 people. Here's more in this report.
To try to curb the spread of coronavirus, South Africa imposed one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. Along with it came the deployment of the police and army and accusations of the abuse of power.
Dozens of complaints against the military include the use of excessive force, physical abuse, murder and brutality. An independent body which monitors police abuse has registered 39 cases, with accusations that at least 6 people were killed by police.
2 months after the coronavirus lockdown began, soldiers and police are still on the streets, despite the easing of restrictions. And for many, a court having to compel security forces to respect the rights of people has been just as shocking as the violence itself.
And the weather forecast, it will be partly cloudy to cloudy and slightly hazy with a few localized showers. We take a second look at the major stories. As preparations continue for the holding of general elections here, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says steps are being taken to appoint a constituencies boundaries commission. He made the announcement during NBC's face-to-face program this morning. There are now only 2 active cases of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, following the receipt yesterday of 91 negative COVID-19 PCR results from the CAFA Public Health Laboratory. This batch of results included 9 negative results, which were the second ones for 9 COVID-19 positive persons, medically clearing them. The Solidarity Organization will hold a march and rally this Friday in support of the citizens of the USA in their struggle for justice and a better society. The march will leave the Victoria Park at 3:30 p.m. for Heritage Square, where a rally will be held featuring speakers, messages and cultural items. In the region in Jamaica, spending and travelling for civil servants is being cut as the government seeks to adjust to a hit in the budget by the COVID-19 pandemic. Internationally, security forces in South Africa are being accused of using excessive force while implementing the coronavirus lockdown measures. That's a look at the Midday News. Good afternoon. I'm Leslie DeBique.
The time by Champion Pasta, it's now 2 minutes to 1.
Think of macaroni pie on a Sunday with your favorite dish. Think of spaghetti with stewed chicken or curry. Think of chow mein done the way you like it. Then think of Champion Pasta made with 100% semolina, so it's healthy for you and your family. So when you're heading up to the supermarket today, pick up Champion Pasta macaroni, spaghetti, chow mein, twirls, bow ties, penne, mini mac, vermicelli, elbows, and shells. They're all available under one brand, Champion Pasta. Agents and distributors, Facey Trading, SVG Limited. Call 457-5047.
Death is a fact of life. Even though death is a fact of life, that doesn't make it any easier. When dealing with the loss of a loved one, you may try to be strong, but it's really hard sometimes. But that's just when the experience of the staff at New Haven Funeral Home can demonstrate their compassion and help to guide your family through the difficult time. So in your time of loss, call the New Haven Funeral Home at 457-1830 or 458-1467 or email newhavenfuneralhome@gmail.com. New Haven Funeral Home, SVG's preferred funeral home.
Selma, good morning. How are you? How come you going down today? Today isn't your day off? Girl, I cannot take a day off these days because I have too many outstanding bills that I need to clear up. My concern is my NIS payments though. I am way behind and I want to pay it up and try to keep it current because I don't want when the time comes to get my little pension, them tell me I am not qualified. I will reach pensionable age in the next couple of years, you know.
Okay, my dear, I understand.
Selma is a vendor in the vegetable market. She pays her NIS as a self-employed. Are you self-employed and are you paying your NIS?
We've been asked to announce the deaths of Mr. Joel Adams of South Carolina, USA, formerly of Dixon, Miss Jennifer Jacinta Batiste, known as Babes, of Daphne, formerly of Sandy Bay, Miss Albertina Brown, known as Sheila Warner, of Golden Grove, Chateaubelair, Mr. Lloyd Cornelius da Silva, known as Prick and Tess, of Freeland, Mesopotamia, formerly of Gomé, Miss Deirdre Akia Chantel Jacobs, known as Keela of Baibu, Miss Mary Rachel Jennings of New Zealand, formerly of Southwood, Mr. Hadley O'Neill Joseph, known as Banker of Glamorgan, Mr. Cedric Mills of Arnesville, Mrs. Elsa Genevieve McAllister Morinville of Brooklyn, New York, formerly of Swampgut, Layou, Mr. Neil Jr. da Costa Ross, better known as Jiggs of Fairhall, Mrs. Laverne Valerie Williams Smart, known as Miss Laverne of Redemption Champs, Mr. Arnold Stapleton, known as Brother of Rose Hall, Miss Edith Clementina Tannis, known as Janie Arundel of Hamilton Beckwith, Mrs. Ethel Cynthia Wiley née Matthews, known as Miss Wiley and Tanti of Lacroix, formerly of Rosebank, and Mrs. Sylvia Janetta Wynne, better known as Tanti Jenny of Lago Height. Mr. Joel Adams of South Carolina, USA, formerly of Dixon, died on Saturday, June the 6th at the age of 79. The funeral for the late Mr. Joel Adams of South Carolina, USA, formerly of Dixon, takes place in South Carolina. Burial will be on Saturday, June 13th. Miss Jennifer Jacinta Batiste, known as Babes of Daphne, formerly of Sandy Bay, died on Wednesday, June 3rd at the age of 64. The funeral arrangements for the late Miss Jennifer Jacinta Batiste, known as Babes of Daphne, formerly of Sandy Bay, will be heard in a subsequent announcement. Miss Albertina Brown, known as Sheila Warner of Golden Grove, Chateaubelair, died on Saturday, May 23rd at the age of 84. She is survived by her children, Noala Brown, Lionel Philip Glenroy, Denise Vashtina, Merlina, Harold, Maisie, Cindy, and Jennifer Warner, 2 sisters, 1 brother, 42 grandchildren, 30 great-grandchildren, and 11 great-great-grandchildren. Other relatives and friends including Ida Lavia, Selna Gordon, Sonia Williams, and Noel Samuel. The funeral for the late Miss Albertina Brown, better known as Sheila Warner of Golden Grove, Chateaubelair, takes place on Saturday, June 13th at the New Testament Church of God at Chateaubelair. Viewing begins at 1 p.m., the service begins at 2 p.m., and burial will be at the Fitzhugh Cemetery. Mr. Lloyd Cornelius da Silva, known as Prick and Tess of Freeland, Mesopotamia, formerly of Gome, died on Thursday, June the 4th at the age of 63. The funeral arrangements for the late Mr. Lloyd Cornelius da Silva, known as Prick and Tess of Freeland, Mesopotamia, formerly of Gome, will be heard in a subsequent announcement. Miss Deirdre Akia Chantel Jacobs, known as Keela of Baibu, died on Thursday, May 28th at the age of 41. The funeral arrangements for the late Miss Deirdre Akia Chantel Jacobs, better known as Keela of Baibu, will be heard in a subsequent announcement. Miss Mary Rachel Jennings of New Zealand, formerly of Southwood, died on Monday, June 8th at the age of 47. The funeral for the late Miss Mary Rachel Jennings of New Zealand, formerly of Southwood, takes place on Saturday, June 13th at the Excite Church Turner Center, Kerry, Kerry. The service begins at 11 a.m. Burial will be at the Paitha Cemetery in New Zealand. Mr. Hadley O'Neill Joseph, better known as Banker of Glamorgan, died on Friday, May 29th at the age of 95. He is survived by his children Rosalind Joseph in Barbados, Josephine Audmarie, Jeffrey Eardley and Jerome Joseph, Margaret Joseph Hazel, Maureen Joseph James, Alfred Saunders, Forestine Joseph, Mercel Lambert, and Daphne Scotland in Trinidad. Sisters Elaine George and Ethelyn George in the USA. Brothers Marcus George in England. 44 grandchildren, including Osdale, Darlene, Clint, Kurtdale, Zoe, Anika, Andrea, Joselle, Ariakel, Kamisha, Kimberly, and Jerry's. 32 great-grandchildren, including Akela, Dondre, Jamali, and Akim. 6 nieces, including Irene, Ivy, and Beverly. 10 nephews, including Junior, Leo, and James George. Daughters-in-law Mildred Saunders in Trinidad. Sanyika Joseph in the USA. Sisters-in-law Clementina Stowe in St. Vincent, Beryl Parsons and Veronica Crease in Canada. Brother-in-law Albert Stowe in Trinidad. Sons-in-law Daniel Hazel, Lawrence James in St. Vincent, Bernard Lambert in Trinidad. Caretakers Josephine and Osdale Joseph, Janet Richards, Avis Lee, and Claudette Paris. Close relatives the George families of Southwood and Belmont, Isola Moffat and Miriam Joseph and their families. The Stowe, Yami, and Providence families of Fairhall. Other relatives and friends, including Basil Barnwell, Cynthia Scotland, Francis Lee, Theophilus Young, Earl Morris, Lorna Carr, the Richards and Edwards families of Glamorgan, Eden Morgan, Sherma and Wayne Williams, Thirsty, Leroy Moffat, Morris May, Denzel and Lucy Fraser, Millicent De Silva, Gloria Bascom, Cecil Jack, and the community of Glamorgan. The funeral for the late Mr. Hadley O'Neill Joseph, better known as Banker of Glamorgan, takes place on Saturday, June 13th at the St. Elizabeth Spiritual Baptist Cathedral at Belmont. The body lies at the church from 1:15 p.m. The service begins at 2. Burial will be at the Belmont Cemetery. Mr. Cedric Mills of Arnesvale died on Wednesday, April 15th at the age of 79. He is survived by his wife, children, grandchildren, brothers, sisters, and many other relatives and friends. The funeral for the late Mr. Cedric Mills of Arnesvale takes place on Saturday, June 13th at the Kingstown Methodist Church. The body lies at the church from 2 p.m. The service begins at 3. Burial will be at the Kingstown Cemetery. Persons are asked to note that additional seating will be provided in the Methodist Hall next door and the Methodist parking lot under tents. Outdoor LED screens will be located outside the church. Mrs. Elsa Genevieve McAllister Morinville of Brooklyn, New York, formerly of Swampgut, Leyu, died on Monday, June 1st at the age of 69. The funeral for the late Mrs. Elsa Genevieve McAllister Morinville of Brooklyn, New York, formerly of Swampgut, Leyu, takes place on Friday, June 12th at the Ponce Funeral Home, 2715 Atlantic Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. The viewing takes place on Thursday, June 11 from 3 p.m. and Friday from 10 a.m. The service begins at 11 a.m. Burial will be in New York. Mr. Neil Jr. DeCosta Ross, better known as Jigs of Fair Hall, died on Friday, May 22nd at the age of 63. The funeral for the late Mr. Neil Jr. DeCosta Ross, better known as Jigs of Fair Hall, takes place on Saturday, June 20th at the St. Paul's Anglican Church, Calico. The body lies at the church from 2 p.m. The service begins at 3. Burial will be at the Calico Cemetery. Mrs. Laverne Valerie Williams Smart, better known as Miss Laverne of Redemption Champs, died on Wednesday, June 3rd at the age of 51. She is survived by her husband, James Smart, children Levi Williams Laborde, Tamisha Williams Simmons, Orlando and Michaelia Williams, sisters Nadine Williams Batiste, Christine and Hannah DeShong, Deborah Lockhart, Aisha and Abdul Allen, and Susan Williams. Brothers Glenroy Leslie and Aswa DeShong, grandson Zion Laborde, nieces Vanessa and Kimonique Ashton, nephew Daphne Williams, aunts Agatha and Gladys Samuel, uncles Risley and Burton Samuel, in-laws Andrew Batiste, Davina Laborde, Michael Simmons and Akeem Bacchus. Several cousins including Kathy Ann, Kerry Ann, Rachel, Aska and Darren Samuel. Close relatives, the Honorable Sinclair Leacock, Patricia Campbell, Marlene Belmar, Janice Fraser, Joy John, Brennan King, Rosie Clark, and Pastor Brennan Jack. Many other relatives and friends, including the Forbes, Clark, DeShong, Samuel, Williams, and Simmons families, the members of the St. Malachi Spiritual Baptist Church at Redemption Champs, staff at the C.W. Prescott Primary School, and the boys at Sticky's Bar at Redemption Champs. The funeral for the late Mrs. Laverne Valerie Williams Smart, better known as Miss Laverne of Redemption Champs, takes place tomorrow at the Faith Deliverance Church Redemption Champs opposite the football field. The body lies at the church from 2 p.m. The service begins at 2:30. Burial will be at the Kingstown Cemetery. Mr. Arnold Stapleton, better known as brother of Rose Hall, died on Wednesday, May 27th at the age of 73. He is survived by his children Jacqueline Stapleton in Canada, Alpha Shamin and Ezekiel Stapleton in St. Vincent, Arlene Stapleton in Bermuda, sisters Cynthia Denny and Mildred Samuel, brother Ivo Samuel, grandchildren Ronel, Lucky, Moses, Tammy, Rokia, Jakia and Nikita in Canada, Chanel, Shemrick, Shazia, Akisha, Adonel, Adonai, Alatif, Avisha, Azario, Patricia, and Desiree Stapleton in St. Vincent. 6 grandchildren, several nieces and nephews, Aunt Carmina Stapleton, brother-in-law Alan Denny, son-in-law Frederick Stapleton, daughter-in-law Paulette Stapleton, caretakers Ezekiel Stapleton and Azario Ferdinand. Several cousins, close relatives, the Stapleton, John, Samuel, Richards, and Rodney families of Rose Hall. Many other relatives and friends, including Dr. Gerald Thompson, Senator Carlos James, Vernet and Ashley Mason, Ann Ashton, Ursel and Uriel and their families, Wilfred and Monica Alexander, Ivan Kane, Dario, George, Flavia, staff at the Rose Hall Health Center, and the Boys on the Block at the park. The funeral for the late Mr. Arnold Stapleton, better known as brother of Rose Hall, takes place on Saturday, June 13th at the New Testament Church at Rose Hall. The body lies at the church from 2 p.m. The service begins at 3. Burial will be at the Rose Hall Cemetery. Miss Edith Clementina Tannis, better known as Janie Arundel of Hamilton Beckway, died on Monday, May 4th at the age of 95. She is survived by her children Grace Osborne, née Arundel, Isabel and Yvonne Arundel, Cynthia Hamilton, née Arundel, and Justin Arundel. Sister Agatha Lane, 26 grandchildren, 28 great-grandchildren, 1 great-great-grandchild. Several nieces and nephews in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and abroad. Daughter-in-law Lovina Arundel of Belmont. Sons-in-law George Osborne and Vincent Hamilton in Beckway, Rudolph Bergin of Lomans Hill. Caretaker Yvonne Arundel, several cousins in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and abroad. Close relatives the Arundel, Tannis, Patterson, Hercules, Duncan Lane and Bergin families in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and abroad. Close friend Wilma Williams, many other relatives and friends, including the King, Leslie, Gooding and Simmons families and the community of Mount Pleasant, Beckway. The funeral for the late Miss Edith Clementina Tannis, better known as Janie Arundel of Hamilton Beckway, takes place on Saturday, June 13th at the St. Michael Roman Catholic Church in Hamilton. The body lies at the church from noon, the service begins at 1, and burial will be at the Port Elizabeth Cemetery. Mrs. Ethel Cynthia Wiley, née Matthews, better known as Miss Wiley and Tanti of Lacroix, formerly of Rosebank, died on Friday, May 29th at the age of 87. She is survived by her children Leslie Babis Matthews, Barbara Gwendolyn and Susan Wiley, several grandchildren, including Ronell King and Yolande Matthews Lewis, 4 great-grandchildren, nieces Annette Alexander, Alina James, Brenda Morris, Alette Sulin, Carmina and Laurel Matthews, Maria Wiley, Ivy and Karen Mackenzie, nephews Berkeley and Jimmy Alexander, Everall and Delroy Young and Ian Matthews, caretakers Leslie Matthews and Joy Teixeira, many other relatives and friends, including Alma Duggan, Teresa Scarrett, the Bullock families of Calder, the Matthews families of Rosebank, Petty Bedell, Mesopotamia and Greggs, the Wiley families and Humil Oliver of Lacroix. The funeral for the late Mrs. Ethel Cynthia Wiley, née Matthews, better known as Miss Wiley and Tanti of Lacroix, formerly of Rosebank, takes place on Saturday, June 13th at the Rosebank Anglican Church. The body lies at the church from 2 p.m. The service begins at 3. Burial will be at the Darkview Cemetery. Mrs. Sylvia Janitha Wynne, better known as Tanti Jenny of Lago Height, died on Saturday, June the 6th at the age of 79. The funeral for the late Mrs. Sylvia Janitha Wynne, known as Tanti Jenny of Lago Height, takes place on Sunday, June 21st at the St. Peter's Spiritual Baptist Church at Decent Cottage. The body lies at the church from 1 p.m. The service begins at 2, and burial will be at the Kingstown Cemetery. Relatives and friends are kindly asked to accept the foregoing intimations, and the National Broadcasting Corporation extends sincere condolences to the bereaved.